So good morning everyone, it's Andy42 from Human Codable, and today I'm going to talk about the radial menu a little bit. As promised, I will do a radial menu where you can select different teleportation locations, like here with the plant and with the statue. But I will also implement one radial menu where you can actually teleport from one level to another. So in this case, if I select the gun here, it will take me to the action level, and it's a slightly different approach. So I'm going to make sure that we will integrate both of them. Okay, let's dive right in. First of all, we are going to create a new blueprint, an actor, and call it teleport point. And this is the actor I'm going to place in the scene, and we will be able to teleport to this exact location. The next thing I'm going to add here is an enum, and inside the enum called teleportation points, I'm going to define the different teleportation modes I want to have. So in this case, I'm starting with the plant and the statue. So let's open up the teleport again and add the enum we just created. We make it instance editable, and so I can now change it in the outliner. So let's place one inside the level and change this to be the statue. We're also going to add a text render to our teleport points and set the text to the name of the enum. So this way we exactly know which teleport point we are currently having here. So this is the statue and the other one is the plant. Next, I added a little arrow component and recentered the text a little bit. This way I know where the player is facing after the teleportation. So in this case, he's looking exactly at the plant. And let's change the position of the statue a little bit. Something like this. Okay, the next thing would be to create a child of our radial button, and let's call it teleport master and move it into our folder structure here. I also add a static mesh. This will be the preview mesh I'm going to add, and let's add the statue to it and position it. So here I went in and I copied the event set highlight. I do a call to the parent set highlight, connect everything up, and I use the highlight logic to have an event for start highlighting and end highlighting. And in this case, I'm going to modify the scale and the rotation. So let's open up the timeline, create a new float parameter called size, and add 2 points to it. Let's make it from 0, 0 to 1 and 1, 2.5 and 1. So over half a second, I lerp from the value 0 to 1. And this value I'm going to use as a lerp. So actually, let's change it to 1 and 1. It's easier to handle. Also, I changed the length of the timeline to 1, hit compile. And now you can see I have this lerp value. I'm going to lerp between two floats, 0 and 4. And I'm also going to add a new text component to my radial menu. Here I want to display the actual name of the teleport point. So in this case, I'm going to do the same like I previously did. I'm going to add my enum with the teleport points I have defined. The next thing I'm going to do at the begin play, I'm changing the size of the actual text component to be 0. So this way I'm not seeing it at the begin play, but once I hover over it and this event set highlight is triggered, I'm going to lerp between the values from 0 to 1, and I'm going to change this later because 1 is a little bit too small. But for now, let's keep this value here, hit compile. The next thing we need to do is we need to define our radial buttons. So we open up the info UI, and I'm going to delete all the things in the palette. I don't need them right now for the purpose of this tutorial. I only need the radial menu 1 here, so let's open it up. I'm also going to remove all the elements and add the radial button I just created, so our radial button teleport master. And now if I hit play and open up the radial menu, you can see here is my teleport button radial master. The text is not aligned properly, so I'm going to fix this now, but you can already see everything else is working. Also, the text was a little bit too small, so let's change it to something like 6. And test it again. And now you can see, you can probably read it. It disappears if I don't hover over it, and it appears once I hover over it again. So let's create a child blueprint for our different radial buttons. So let's do one for the statue and one for the plant. We open it up, and inside of here, the only thing we need to change is the actual mesh and our enum. So let's change the enum to plant, and also go in here and change the visual representation to be the plant. And all the other logic is handled by the master. So let's go into the info UI again. We add the teleport plant and our teleport statue we just created. And now if I hit play, I should be able to see both of them. I'm also going to set the relative rotation of my preview mesh once I hover over it. I want to slightly rotate the mesh. So let's copy our relative transform values here. And we are also going to use a lerp for this. We want to lerp between 0 and 90 degrees. And we use the same lerp value. But as you will see, there will be a slight error. So the mesh will flip from time to time. Here you can see it. To fix this error, this is a rotation error. This often happens in rotation, and one way to prevent this would be to just lerp between minus 89%, not directly 90 degrees. The next step would be to implement the actual logic for teleportation. Right now, nothing is happening if I select it. Let's create the event select pressed. This is the one that is actually being triggered. And first of all, I want to get all actors of class from a teleport points I have in my level. So let's save them in an array. And for each of them, once it is pressed, I want to go through and get the enum teleport points to see if they match the teleport point of the radial button I currently selected. So this is just the basic step. We have our teleport points, we have our radial button, and each of them have this enum teleport points. Once I hit the press button, I want to find the teleport point that is matching the one selected. So here I go into my teleport point and create a new custom event called teleport pawn here. And this is very simple. I use our teleport character function we have already written, and I just get the player pawn and teleport it to the actor location and also to the actor rotation. Make sure to check the use rotation to use the actual rotation. And now I'm going to call this event I just created onto the teleport point I just found that is matching the right enum. Okay, so I'm going to add a add call to parent option here. And let's see if it's already working. I have my two radial menus, and you can see once I hover over it and select it, I'm going to be teleported to the exact same position I have defined earlier. So this is already working great for locations I placed in a level. Let's have a look on how we can actually teleport from one level to another. This will be a different approach, so I'm going to add a new enum to my teleport points, call it action map, and hit save. Let's create a new child from our teleport master and call it something like teleport action map. So the name of the actual map I'm going to open with this. And therefore I need a little different logic in here. So first of all, I'm also going to place a mesh. In this case, I use the gun for the visual representation. I'm also choosing my enum to be the action map and hit compile. And now I need to modify the master a little bit. So let's open up the master again. And once I select the radial button, let's do a little switch on the enum. For the plant and for the statue, we can use the logic we created earlier. But for the action map, we need to make a little different action because we actually want to switch the level. So we are using the function switch level we have written. And here I can define the new level key. So this is the level key that is defining a level. Let's also add this to our radial menu here. So now I have all three of the buttons, and you can see once I hover over them, they exactly match each other, but once selected, they have a little bit different logic. So this is working fine. Let's see what's happening if I select the action map, and you can see it's also working if I hover with the hand over it and if I select it with the hand. And this would also work for the laser. So as you can see, this was a very simple approach, nothing fancy here. I was just able to select it, open up the level, and I'm inside of this level. So you can create as many as you want. And you can also do cool effects. So for example, once hover over it, a light could go on or something starts rotating. In this case, I'm also using the event set highlight. I do a call to parent option, and let's add an arrow again. I want to define the position of the gun where the projectiles would spawn. And let's do a simple example. So I'm using the highlight logic. And what I'm trying to achieve here is once I select or once I hover over this mesh, I want to spawn a little projectile. Just as a little example. So I'm getting the world transform from the arrow I just created. I'm opening up the projectile, and let's make it a little bit slower because it's too fast in the default. So let's change this value here from 3000 to something lower, so the projectiles are not so fast. And now if I hover over it, you can see that little projectiles being spawned. And they are lying around on the ground here. So just a simple example, but you can do a lot of great stuff with this. For example, if you have a lamp, you can turn on the lamp once it's selected and turn it back off again. And really be creative with this one. So the last thing I want to do here to polish this up is I'm also going to lerp the scale of my preview mesh to be a little bit bigger once it's selected. And now you can see it's really scaling up the preview mesh once I hover over it. I hope this will give you a good idea of what you can actually do with the system, especially the set highlight logic is so powerful. And now you can add like 20 different locations and really switch between all of them. You can also switch between your levels. If you have any questions or got lost, please don't hesitate to ask on the Discord channel. See you next time.